please. Sorry to keep you waiting.
Alrighty, here you go.
Alright.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Alright.
Oh, I saw Macy's interview. But I only saw like
Oh, you did?
1 minute of it and then I was looking for
Where'd you see it?
You sent it to me, Louis.
Oh yeah, I did. A little bit of almond is stuck in my mouth. Wait a minute.
Okay. Well, okay, my name is Samara and I'm from India. Mumbai specifically Lower Parel for reference. Also I think Louis is an interesting character. I think exactly. I also believe I'm also an interesting character, so it's fine.
The first question, right? Little segue into the larger questions. To you, what's more important in fiction, right? Escapism or reflection?
I much prefer escapism actually, because for me, I've been reading since a long time. Yes, 16 years, going on 17th year, and I think reading for me, I've always used it as a coping mechanism or like a means of escapism of my own, if that makes sense. So I know reflection is also quite important generally, because when you write, you can sort of get things out in a way that you can't in your head. But for me, I much prefer escapism.
Is there a specific genre that you read that would allow you the best route of escape? Like fantasy or like sci-fi, or like what type of story would you say works best?
I would say I'm not a fantasy fan. I like Lord of the Rings at most.
That is the penultimate of fantasy, though.
That's true. Okay, but no, Harry Potter is the penultimate of fantasy because of how cliche and overused it is. Don't you think?
Interesting notion. Elaborate, please.
It's not that interesting, but okay. But I just feel like the more commercial something gets, the more, I don't know, the more quintessential it becomes.
The less original it.
Yeah, in a way. So like in my mind, Harry Potter is like quintessential fantasy because it's so much more like visible as compared to Lord of the Rings, which has declined a lot. Like only Aegon, my TOK teacher, talks about Lord of the Rings. Yeah, and your TOK teacher.
For you, okay, you haven't answered like what type of story.
Oh right, I like mystery the most. I love Agatha Christie. I haven't read her in a while, but I read this really fascinating book called The Woman in the Window, one of those contemporary ones. Yes, but I also love classics. So I read Crime and Punishment a little while back. I have not read East of Eden. I doubt that's mystery, but
that's like I told you that day, it's Steinbeck's fanfic of the Bible.
Right, you told me that day. Indeed. Crime and Punishment, yes, not exactly mystery, but it kind of is quite thrilling.
I see. So you enjoy, I would say, do you enjoy a psychological drama in novels?
Psychological drama, to a certain extent. There was that one really gory one, The Silent Patient.
No,
we considered a psychological drama. I don't like that type. Like the more violent it gets, the less I like it. But the Bell Jar, for example, very good psychological drama.
All right, now we're moving on to the type of stories. Do you think are sad stories more truthful than happy ones?
Oh, that is such a good question. Oh my god, I'm glad you asked. I feel like, I don't know since when it started, but there's this whole like clique of the tortured artist. Okay, not clique, but like this idea that for literature to be of a certain quality, it has to be melancholic, or the artist has to have some sort of like suffering. And I to a large extent see the validity of the idea, because I feel like pain is a more common human experience than happiness, because happiness is so fleeting and euphoric. It's much easier to relate to pain than to happiness, if that makes sense.
Yes.
because we've all experienced so little of it. Maybe I'm just depressed. Either ways.
I think that's a very good point. So in this case, regarding pain and happiness, would you say a person with a really tragic background is destined to write a tragic story? Or can it be subversed?
I feel like they would definitely be more likely to write about their tragic past. And I feel like that tragic past would also sell quite well. As compared to... Because if you look at... I feel like also in general, on a scale of emotions, like tragedy is so much more intense than happiness. And like I'm just wondering if that person has been through so much, they would be able to write about happiness in like quality like literature.
Yeah.
So
So the person I was thinking about was actually Tolkien.
who?
Tolkien, the author of the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, Tolkien. Oh, okay.
So as you know, he he was in World War II. He saw the bad stuff, the atrocities and everything. But his writing defined whimsical for the next 5 decades. So I would say there's a little bit of subversion in that, wouldn't you say?
I agree. But then if you look at like, I'm sure there's always exceptions, but a majority, like for example, Kurt Vonnegut in Slaughterhouse.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure most war veterans would think like him.
Regarding war novels, or basically any type of fiction or media that talks about war, it might be advocating against it, it might not be, or it might just be like a visual feast of like, blah blah blah. What do you think is the most effective way of portraying war?
Oh, jeez. Most effective way of portraying war? I'm not sure actually. I've never really given it a thought. But I would say when it comes to war, it's such a personal experience. So I feel like if you can reflect that authenticity in your writing, like your experience of war, because I've never experienced war, I feel like I wouldn't be able to produce any sort of quality literature again about war. And I do believe that although it's one event, assuming like one war is happening in 2 sides or multiple sides, it's one event, but every side and every person in that side has a different sort of experience. So then if you can sort of convey that would be the most effective way of writing about it.
Okay. On a more light-hearted note, you mentioned that authenticity plays a big part in author or / audience intent. The more personal a story is, the more qualified it is to be a good or powerful story. In other words, the more experienced an author is, the better their works become. What do you like? Okay, do you know Game of Thrones?
I do, but I've never watched it. Is it a book series also?
Yeah, it began as a book series, A Song of Ice and Fire. So basically, it's written by this jolly old man, George R.R. Martin. That guy, you could say he's the person who popularized grimdark fantasy, low fantasy. Like, if you overhear a council meeting, you will get killed, and your family would also get killed, and all your close confidants will also be killed. Like that kind of dark fantasy, really gritty, dark road, very cruel, super realistic. But the guy has never seen like war, nothing. He's old white male, and it has received critical acclaim internationally. What do you make of that?
I mean, it's obviously an over-exaggeration. Like that's not an accurate account of war. And then again, there's a question of what is an accurate account of war, since everything's so subjective. But like, I don't think, at least in like not contemporary, well, at least World War I, World War II, it's not that exaggerated. It's not. You get it. Like no one, if someone like if let's say a spy eavesdrops on like a meeting or something, no one is going to go out and like kill them and then their family and then their maybe possibly. I don't know. I just feel like it's too exaggerated.
I see. Go on a more personal standpoint. What's a story you've returned to again and again, and why?
Now, the thing with me is that I don't like to return to stories.
Interesting. Because me too.
Yeah,
Explain.
really?
Yeah.
Okay, no, you explain first.
There is one story that I've returned again and again and again, and that's Harry Potter.
Really? Oh, you don't like me as Harry
Sadly,
Potter.
yes.
Oh my god.
The times I've read Harry Potter, dots in the double digits.
No.
That was my childhood. Harry Potter was my childhood, and then was Percy Jackson. But I've read Percy Jackson only 2 times, and then I gradually stopped revisiting stories I've read. I think it's because I like to keep the memory fresh. On a second read through, of course, you'll gain new insights. You'll discover places where, oh my god, this side character's death was foreshadowed. Oh my god, wait, what's that oh, the traitor already revealed themselves on page 5. What? You'll get so many new insights, but that's standing from a spectator's perspective, which takes away all the fun from the first read through. Because I like to think of the first read throughs as it's like playing video games. I'm not sure if you okay. So replayability and rereadability is very similar, but in this sense, replayability is just a big, exaggerated rereadability thing. If a book presents enough nuance for you to reread it, then sure, reread it. But if the story is you'll never get the same emotions you felt the first time around. And a second read-through or a second playthrough would, in most cases, muddy that original initial experience. That's why I don't reread stories now.
Perfect. Yes, exactly the same. I feel like when I read something, it's like this golden bubble, and then when I revisit it, it just loses all of its novelty. And I don't like that feeling. So I tend not to. I don't think I've ever reread a book at all ever in my life. Rewatched movies, yes, but not books.
Then what's a movie you've rewatched countless
No,
times?
that's a good question because I haven't watched a movie in a while. I really need more entertainment. What is a movie? Oh, okay, well, I keep on rewatching Lord of the Rings every 3 years to keep myself updated.
Every 3 years?
Every 3 years.
Ooh.
It's since the past... Okay, well, since the past 6 years, I've been rewatching Lord of the Rings at 3-year intervals. So I watched it twice already, the whole trilogy.
And what makes you go back to it so many times?
I feel like because the plot is so complex and the characters are so many, I keep on forgetting. And so I feel like every time I rewatch it, it's like a new sort of...
I see.
Yeah. So novelty is very important for me.
Novelty.
Yeah.
Alright. How about, let's say not a tangible story. Let's say a verbal story, right? Is there any stories you've heard or been told as a child that stuck with you as you grew up?
Huh.
Or it could also be one that you tell yourself or you came up with yourself. So interestingly for me, there's this one story I tell myself. It's when I'm bored, I'll just tell myself this story. It has nothing to do with facilitating my boredom, but when I was small, my grandpa owned a very large golden retriever. I call name transliterated to English is like.
Oh, like?
No, Lyke, Lyke.
Like?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yes.
was his Chinese name was Le Le, which was his like haha. I can't really say haha when I introduce him, so I can only say like. So or Joy. You could call him Joy. But Joy's a not really an androgynous name, but he big golden retriever. The moment I was born, the moment he saw me, he sort of became my big brother. Right? When I was small, like when I was a little baby, little toddler, right? There was this one day when I don't cry a lot when I was small, and my parents almost thought it's like a mental disorder since I nearly never cried.
Oh my god, same.
But then there was this one day where I was just bawling my eyes out, right? Like tears, like a damn waterfall, right? Wetting the blankies, right? And the snot running down and everything, right? I was howling, man. I was shrieking. Like if I was in an opera, I would get first place of how loud and how piercing my shrieks were. The whole family was gathered around the bed, and they tried to soothe me, and so he saw me, because he understood emotions, like dogs understand basic emotions and stuff. Oh, okay, he's sad. Okay. So he went to my room and got me my favorite toy, and I was like, and I looked at it, and I kept on crying, and then that got him really like frustrated, like whoa, what's going on? And then so what he came up with was he went to his own little cubby hole, right? And he brought out his favorite toy, and he gave it to me. It was like a strand of rope, those big ropes that they tie ships to docks with. It was like a strand of that, and I took it. It was like soggy and stuff because when he was young, he got shocked by an electric wire, and so he just constantly drools. So it was wet, but that sort of calmed me down. That was an event. When I was small, I would also ride him. He'll also let me ride him when I wasn't as heavy. So yeah, that's so it was sort of like a guardian angel for me. And every time I get bored or like get a little sad, I would like tell myself that story again. Is there a for you?
Well, anytime. That's interesting. There's stories that are integral to my identity are different from stories that make me happy when I'm sad. So which one?
Let's do both.
Okay, let's do both.
We have time.
Okay, so in terms of a story that's integral to my identity, my mom like repeatedly loves telling me how when I was a child, like I was so attached to her that every time she would leave the room, I would start crying. And once when she was otherwise I was a very quiet baby. Once when she had gone, I cried myself almost to a point where my face was red and I got a fever. I don't know how that works, but apparently that works. And yes, I feel like since then that somehow like a part of my identity that's very important to me is family and like valuing family. And I feel like every time I think of the story, it reminds me how much they mean to me and the places that I am today, I wouldn't be without them, if that makes sense. So my identity is quite dependent on other people because external validation is unfortunately something that's very important to me in general. Yeah, I know. And in terms of stories that are what was the second one? Stories that make me happy. Yes, when I'm sad. So my grandpa was very dear to me, and the thing is, he wasn't my grandpa by birth because my grandma remarried, right? So like the first grandpa was like my biological grandfather is completely out of the photo. He was Moroccan, stayed in Morocco and everything, like confusing. But my second grandfather, although I wasn't related to him at all, in no way apart from like through the marriage of my grandmother, like he still loved me like I was his own granddaughter, like I was his blood. And I feel like every time I think of that, it just makes me happy because it reinforces my hope in humanity.
Hell yeah. So you would say that... Okay, unrelated question. Would you say kindness can be categorized?
Kindness can be like labeled or
Yeah.
like into different...
Yeah. Is there... So, we have this saying that all jobs are equal. Are all kindness equal?
Oh no. Oh, that is such a good question. Now I'm just thinking of like, if I were to help someone cross the street versus if I were to help someone like pay for their, I don't know, college education, there's like a huge difference in terms of generosity, but you'd still label both a kind act.
But would you say one is kinder than the other?
I would think so. Yeah, I feel like there are varying intensities of kindness, because like I feel like kindness also depends on how much. Okay, those are how much you're willing to give, if that makes sense. Because like if I'm helping someone cross the street, I'm not giving much apart from, I don't know, like 2-3 minutes of my time. But if I'm willing to, I don't know, pay for someone's college education, I'm willing to give much of like hard-earned money, you know?
There's this story, little anecdote from the Bible that I like to think about. So God, right? So people offer their tributes to God, in hopes of like blessing, right? An old woman gives God 1 coin and leaves. Few moments later, a wealthy merchant comes up and gifts God an entire ship of gold and jewels. Both of them are rewarded with like good harvests and good business and stuff. However, while the merchant aged, the old lady did not get into contact with any illnesses, diseases, nothing. And you could say that the old lady got off better, actually better than if not, okay, they definitely got off the same, if not, the lady definitely got off the same with the merchant, if not better. Yeah. And so the merchant is very confused, right? As the old woman only gave you 1 coin. However, I gave you this entire like boatload. Why do we get treated the same? Like, why do you treat her better? And God answered, that is because the old woman gave me everything she had, while you gave me just a portion of your wealth. I think that could be used to like measure kindness in this case, which comes with a next question. Would you say that kindness is subjective?
Is kindness subjective? Oh god. I mean, oh definitely. I feel like it depends on, you know, your values as a person. For one person, like a kind act would just be basic manners, but for another person it would be like, you know, going out of their way in an ungenuine act of kindness, if that makes sense. So yeah, and actually your anecdote also reminded me of a story I read a while back, but it does make sense. It's all contextual, you know.
I see. Would you say that the subjectivity of kindness is mostly would you say if it's more dependent, the subjectivity of kindness, if it's more dependent on the person giving the act of kindness or the person perceiving the act of kindness?
It's more dependent on the person giving or the person?
Let's say an example, right? A wild, unkempt kid, who has survived up until adolescence through the rule of the jungle, the survival of the fittest. One day shares a moldy piece of bread with an old man. Oh wait, with a pregnant mother.
Okay.
This is one. This is option A. And option B, on the other side, we have a king. Well, not a king. Let's say someone who is not obligated to the realm, right? A traveler. A traveler saves an entire town of people, right? Pregnant mothers, fathers, children, an entire town of people by performing a miracle. Or like by sacrificing something of great personal value to them, right? That's option B. Which act is kinder?
That is such a hard question. Oh my god. Okay. Which act is... I feel like you can use the same logic that in the story that you told me from the Old Testament or wherever. Because, I mean, it depends if that moldy piece of bread was like something that the unkempt young boy had like spent weeks scrounging for and then found and was going to eat himself, but then saw this lady who maybe needed it more, or maybe he was just, I don't know, and wanted to offer it. Then that could be considered a great act of kindness. And then the second one, it depends whether it's a great personal sacrifice, as you said. If it's not, then it reduces the degree of kindness. And if it actually is a great personal sacrifice, then I feel like it could be equivalent, because even the young boy made a great sacrifice. When that was food he was going to eat, he must have been starving.
So you're not measuring. Okay, so you're not looking at the backgrounds of the two givers. You're looking at the personal significance of the things they were giving.
Yeah, the context in which it was given.
Okay.
The context in which kindness was given, yes.
All right, that makes sense. Good perspective. Fourth question, right? Is the fear of change stronger than the need for justice?
Is the fear of change stronger than...
You can answer. You could just use present world right now.
Present world right now, right? I feel it definitely is. I would like to think in an Indian context. Is the fear for change stronger than... I definitely, and I can't think of any specific examples. I'm also thinking in terms of like peaceful, like I know for a long time before the BJP was in power, there was another ruling party called the Indian National Congress, and they sort of consolidated power in such a manner that there was a lack of electoral integrity. There was just a lot of like just keeping power where it was, and out of fear of like change for them, they didn't reach, like they didn't push the country to the full potential that it could reach. You know, they kept people uneducated. They didn't deliver quality infrastructure. Basically, lack of justice out of fear of change. But that's more of out of fear of personal interest also. But then you can also apply the same thing to values, you know, more traditional values. For example, when you view racism or the LGBTQ community, when you, like theories like eugenics, which founded racism, have been around so long, and people who believe in such theories, or people who still believe in white superiority, out of fear of change, they in a way refuse to, you know, acknowledge.
Yeah.
Something isn't adding up though. Yeah, maybe out of fear of more liberal values taking over their worldview. They don't want to let go, and in that way obstruct justice by still continuing to adhere to their views.
Would you say that the way things are, the way society has evolved into in the past, let's say 4 decades, all right, in the past 4 decades, would you say that people say that history is a cycle, right? However, new cycles are created and followed again and again. Would you say that okay, maybe not the last 4 decades, starting from the 21st century up until now, would you say that we've been building ourselves into a new cycle of rapid stagnation that will not be broken?
A new cycle of rapid stagnation. It's rapid and it's also stagnating.
Like, so human progress, right? Up until the Industrial Revolution, it's all slowly going up. After Industrial Revolution, boom, goes up. However, after World War II and stuff, with technological development and space race and everything, it has slowly peaked and then flatlined. Would you say that that would continue to be the case as like consumerism and capitalism? Well, like the need for capital, like capital interest, continues to play a larger and larger role in modern society, that it would hinder the overall development of humankind. Let's say, okay, maybe I won't use Elon Musk as an example.
Oh, okay. But Elon Musk is, I mean, arguably in ways he's trying to like bolster human knowledge, you know?
That's true, but is he making it accessible?
Yeah, no, that's another question. But then there's also the issue of there has to be some confines to human knowledge. So beyond capitalism and consumerism, where is the point? How do we know whether it's actually like capitalism or some other forces that are like preventing us from, you know, further development, or whether it's the confines of our own knowledge? Like whether we've actually hit a point in terms of what we can understand of the rest of the universe, you know?
Yeah. Interestingly, in Dune series, this might be spoilers.
No, that's okay. I'm not gonna read it.
Okay.
Soon.
So, later down the line, a new emperor transforms himself into this giant immortal bug thing that rules over humanity for 10,000 years. Doesn't induce change, doesn't do anything. He just keeps humanity in limbo. No technological development, no intellectual pursuit. He just keeps humanity in limbo. Why does he do it? He does it as a permanent reminder to humanity to always progress, right? Because in turn, like it's like the ends justify the means sort of situation. He makes it so that humanity would never forget this era of stagnation and would go on like to achieve great things after his death. Would you say, like, I haven't read the entire thing, so I don't know if it's achieved, but perspectives definitely changed during that 10,000 years. So, would you say that in order for us to induce change now, for us to really like jog us out of this cycle, something really radical like that would need to happen?
I think for that we'd first have to identify the root causes of the reason that we're stagnating. Because then I'm also thinking that because of the excessive politicization of everything, especially science, things like biotechnology, although we have the means for it to continue, it's not continuing because politics and the ethics behind that. So then in a way, our ethicality. Okay, in a way, of course, the dirty politics is confining us, but at the same time, our understanding of humanity in terms of the ethicality is confining us. But then also, like, how do we know that? How do we know that we have the potential to discover what's left to be discovered? You know, because I'm just thinking, because like humanity is considered to be such a like an unbeatable force, but there has to be a sort of breaking point, and there has to be a stagnation point. There has to be a point where it all stops. And what if we were approaching that point, you know, in terms of seeking and gaining of more knowledge?
So you would say the pursuit of knowledge is what will lead us to our potential doom?
I think so, definitely.
I see.
We already saw it with nuclear power. Yeah.
But with nuclear power, that also brought peace, did it not?
I mean, after they bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki, so like, again, it would be in the ends justify the means sort of thing. But no one knew when US bombed Japan that like years later there would be a treaty not to use nuclear devices, you know. So when they were doing the non-peaceful act, they didn't know it would lead to peace, and therefore I wouldn't say we can really argue that it led us to peace, or like it was intended as a device of peace, you know.
Okay, but would you say a device of intimidation is the same as the device of peace? Well, obviously there's the difference between negative peace and positive peace.
Global.
But would you say in general if that's the case? Or if a device of intimidation is really just another device of conflict, device of war?
Wait, so the difference between, device of intimidation and the other one was a device of peace, right?
Yeah, a device of intimidation, that's tangible. I'm proposing if there is a device of peace, could it be a device of intimidation, or vice versa?
Okay, like if it was an actual device, like that I could, like a proper, like a strategy or like a piece of technology. Yeah, okay.
I mean, we don't have that right now.
Yeah,
but
of
like,
course, yeah. But would be, I don't think so. I mean, like I can't see countries threatening to like, you know, make the other one more peaceful. I don't see how that could be a threat to anyone. You know.
So there is a fundamental difference between intentions, you would say.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. Right. Next up, we have a more speculative question.
Okay.
If grief, sadness, can be cured like a disease, would you take the treatment? Let's first make it radical.
Yeah.
All right. If grief is discovered to be the result of one organ that humanity was previously unaware of, and it could be cut out permanently, would you do it?
It was already quite radical, but okay. Would I? No, I would not. I don't think so. I feel like, absolutely not. I feel like grief and sorrow and sadness and everything negative is as inherently a part of the human experience is everything positive, if not more part of the human experience. Because I feel like grief is more defining than the positive emotions, and that can really shape you as a person, a resilient person.
Interesting. Because at the beginning of the interview, you mentioned that nowadays people put too much emphasis on grief in terms of author experience.
Did I say that? I never said that.
The trope of the tortured artist.
I did say the trope of the tortured artist, but I feel like but it doesn't necessarily contradict the point I just made. It's just a fact that because grief is more defining than the positive emotions, it's also what's being produced more in literature, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why people try to...
I'm just bringing this up to...
Okay.
Okay. For a less radical one now.
Thank you, yeah.
Let's say... Okay, antidepressants already exist, but... Let's say there's a pill.
Okay.
All right, let's say there's a pill. If you take it, that momentary period of grief would leave you as if it never existed, right? And you won't feel grief for that particular event. Would you do it?
Oh no. Oof. Me personally, yes. Provided that...
But you'll still remember the event as it is.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I would, provided that I have the capacity to feel grief later on, and provided that when I take the pill, I'm in my full senses, you know?
Okay, yeah. Okay. All right, interesting. What if you found out your whole life was predetermined, right? Part of someone else's plan.
Yeah.
Would you rebel, right? Or play along?
Someone else. Who is someone else?
Doesn't matter.
I mean, but what if it's if it's God, then how can I rebel?
Would you try to rebel?
Would I try to? Okay. Okay. Assuming it's just someone else and not God, or in general just something that has fatalistic implications on my life, I would try to... No, I would not. No. I think I'm not a submissive person, but I'm fine with anything, you know? I'm chill. If it was already predetermined, I would try to be optimistic and hope that it was all for the best. And I would feel a sense of relief, because the amount of pressure that I put on myself to ensure that I make the right decisions and shape my life the way that I want it to be, or the way that I think it ideally should be, that's a lot of pressure. It would be so much nicer to have everything just given, you know?
Alright. Now, 7.
7?
What?
Is this the 20th question?
I mean, there was follow-ups, but
Okay.
What does true forgiveness require?
True forgiveness. Oh God.
Why are you crying?
I'm not crying. This is so hard. I was so happy doing my EE. True forgiveness. I don't know. The first example that comes to my mind is the models of justice that are... Was it called retributive?
Yeah, retributive justice.
Retributive justice. That's not the one where they punish you, is it?
That's probably the one where they punish you.
Man, come on. 1 second. Restorative. Okay. I was thinking of restorative justice, in which the victim and the family of the victim and the criminal, they come face to face and they have a whole conversation about how to proceed for closure. Closure is very important to forgiveness. True forgiveness. What does that look like? I feel just no negative emotions towards, or no feelings of disdain towards the person or the entity that wronged you, you know?
I see. Would you say time mends all? Or does it exasperate?
No, I feel like time just moves on, and it's up to you whether you want to move with it or no. I don't think time does shit, man. Like, I think it just goes, and you can either choose to like revel in your misery, or you can choose to.
Wait, on a completely unrelated standpoint, do you think the identities of one's forefathers live on with their descendants?
The identities of one's. Well, it depends on what sort of culture.
How about the spirits?
The spirits? Whose spirits?
Would you say the spirits of your ancestors live on inside you?
No, absolutely not. No.
Okay, spirits as in the less tangible, like not the ghost, woo,
Yes,
but more like the...
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, I feel like
Do you believe in genetic memory
genetic memory.
or genetic identity? Do you think that the memories and lived experiences of every single ancestor who shares your blood, or more specific, more like better, who you share blood with, lives on inside you? Is that a possibility?
Okay, like biologically,
Yes.
like genetics
Yes,
wise.
yes.
Then like not every single ancestor that ever lived, but the most dominant traits of like every single ancestor that ever lived, definitely.
But the memories and experience and beliefs and
Memories
spirits.
and experiences and the spirits, definitely not. Like I feel like
You're a very practical person.
no, wait, no. Am I though? But just like knowing like the people my grandparents were and assuming like who their parents were, and like I absolutely do not have the same values, and therefore I fail to see how I would have the same spirit also. You know? Or memories or experiences.
Would you say you're defined by them though?
To a degree. I have to doubt.
Okay.
Yes. Why are you sad?
I was gonna retort with something, but whatever, you know?
Oh, retort.
No, it only depends if you, it only works if you answered yes, like very, very vehemently. Yes, I think the spirits of my ancestors live on in me. They are what makes me me. Their existence defines my existence, and so I am them and they are me.
Okay, assuming I said that, what would you say?
I would say, so would you be held accountable for the crimes of your forefathers?
Yeah. Ooh.
That was what I was gonna ask, but good one, man. You stepped out of that one. All right. Okay.
But that's an interesting that is quite an interesting thought, because like I'm just assuming in terms of like colonialism, I wanted to see, like me as a modern person, I do want to see someone held responsible for the damage that was done. But like, who do I hold responsible? You know?
Yeah, all the old white guys are dead.
Yeah.
Come on. All right. Is pretending to be okay another form of strength?
In a way, I feel like that's also a cowardly thing to do. But at the same time, I feel like you require a form of emotional resilience to like pretend to be okay and not break down, you know? No, but that's too complicated. I can't.
Let's give you another scenario then.
Okay.
This is actually from pop culture. There's this show called Bochi, the Prince. No wait, it's called The Ranking of Kings. Okay, whatever. I'm just quoting it, citing it. Let's say there's a young prince, right? Who is verbally and who is verbally impaired, right? And disabled, and like just not suited to be king, right? He puts up a front before people who's laughing at him. Now those people, they don't know that he can understand them perfectly, but he can. But he pretends he cannot, so he smiles at them and he laughs at them. But secretly, he cries. Would you say that this act of putting up a front is a form of strength? Or do you think him not being genuine to his feelings is a form of weakness?
Okay, but he's crying secretly, but he can put up a front. So that's okay. When you say pretend to be okay, does that only mean to the external world, or do you also gaslight yourself into pretending you're okay?
Would you say that is a defining quality of your answer?
Defining quality?
Would you say that the answer that I give you would define what you give me? If I said yes versus if I said no.
I don't know. I think so.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say? Yes or no?
Let's say yes. Because if you want to put up a front, you got to at least act like you believe it. And all acts are based on at least some semblance of truth. So in this case, you are gaslighting yourself, are you not?
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Assuming I also manage to gaslight myself and I can continue living my life like functioning perfectly fine, I would say that's resilience.
But if it's not, if you're not gaslighting yourself.
Okay, then if I'm not gaslighting myself and I'm letting it like affect me by crying every night, and I'm unwilling to like take help from any external sources, then that is cowardice.
Ah, I see. Good distinction. All right. Next question is another scenario.
And how many questions are there supposed to be?
Two more.
Two more? Okay,
yes.
Thank God, okay.
Okay, let's say you're the icon. Let's say you're the mascot, right? Let's say you're the mascot of a successful revolution, right? You overthrow the evil villain, evil king or queen, right? Or whatever, or evil mix. I don't know. Gotta be inclusive here. And you overthrow them, right? Some years later, right? Kingdom is rebuilt. Doesn't necessarily need to be medieval, by the way. Doesn't necessarily. I'm just using these for like easier imagery. Your people. So a few years later, your people, they're satisfied, they're happy, the kingdom is prosperous, right? Everyone's happy. Economically, it's growing. Diplomatically, it's growing. It's all good. Everything's good. Birds are singing, flowers are blooming, the sun is shining, and then you're told the nasty truth of this rebellion, right? It's actually built on a whole lot more war crimes and atrocities than you could ever possibly imagine. Would you keep this information to yourself, or would you, as the mascot, publicize it?
1 second, sorry, that's a distracting sound.
Right.
But anyway, what happened at the start? What did I do to the kingdom?
Oh no, you're just like the mascot of the rebellion, right?
Okay, so it's a rebellion and I've led the rebellion.
You didn't necessarily lead it.
Okay.
You're its thumbnail.
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah, got it. I'm the mascot of a rebellion that establishes a kingdom.
Yes.
And then the kingdom is founded on a bunch of war crimes.
But the kingdom is, the way the kingdoms are right now, is virtually in every way better than the last one. Much better. And the people are much happier.
Much happier. Happier in the sense of like quality of life.
Both, everything.
Everything.
Yeah, like fulfill top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Oh, okay. Messed up. Okay.
However, we discovered that in order to build this country, right? In order to first take and then build this country, this nation, right? Your like the leaders have done more like things that the previous government has not even heard of.
Oh, okay.
Like dozens of times worse.
I feel like people have the right to information. Is it my place to tell them though? Like, would I be?
You're the only one who know.
Yeah, I would definitely whistle blow.
Okay.
I think it's assuming people have other alternatives to where they want to go. Then I think people definitely need to know what has happened for them to be enjoying such a quality of life, and then to accordingly decide whether they want to do something to sort of compensate for that or ameliorate the situation if possible in any sort of way, and let them decide. But firstly, making the information accessible, but then not forcing anyone to do anything with it. You can take the horse.
Yeah, you're not forcing anyone.
Yeah.
You're just throwing it out there with the full knowledge of it could lead to potential civil unrest.
Potential civil unrest.
Not potential, like 99%.
99% civil unrest. Yeah, I would still. Yeah.
The trumpet blower. All right. Now, last question before the bonus one.
Oh, amazing.
Is plot more important than character, or is the other way around?
Is plot more important than character? For me personally, plot is definitely more important than character. Because I don't read books for the character, I read them for the plot. Like, for example, Agatha Christie, it's all about the plot. And she's been criticized for having two-dimensional characters. And yet I don't care. And yet I doubt many people care that her characters are, quite linear and not very notable. But the plot is all that matters, really. Because, at the end of the day, characters, like, a book is nothing but a plot, and a plot is in part contributed to by numerous factors, one of them being characters.
Would you not say that characters is what builds plot?
Not necessarily. I'm sure there are instances like Agatha Christie of excellent plots, but not necessarily good character development.
Depends on genre.
Depends on which genre would require character development.
So there's ignore genres like fantasy, sci-fi, psych drama, family action. Ignore those. In fiction, there's two main genres.
Okay.
In fiction, any sort of fiction, any media, there's genre fiction and there's literary fiction.
Right.
Genre fiction has is everything that you know, right? Like sci-fi, action, romance, blah blah blah. Thriller, mystery. These are genres. That's genre fiction. And then there's the literary fiction, which is character focused. Example. Anything that is mixed, that you don't get a good feel of what it is literary fiction. For example, Fantastic Mr. Fox, the movie.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Literary fiction. An equally good movie, How to Train Your Dragon, is genre fiction. Another example, Dune is literary fiction. Although it's a mix, it's a big mix. The first book, genre fiction. Next book's literary fiction. Maybe that's not a good example. Star Wars, of course, genre fiction. The Catcher in the Rye.
Never read. Heard. J.D. Salinger?
Yeah, J.D. Salinger. That's a literary fiction.
Right. Crime and Punishment? Literary.
That would be literary.
Yeah.
East of Eden, that would also be literary.
I see what you mean. So, a good amount of classical literature is literary fiction.
Yes. But if you do classical literature, Shakespeare's mix, most of Shakespeare's mix, Othello, Some Night's Dream, mixed. Iliad, genre fiction. Odyssey, genre fiction. Because the hero's journey and fantasy elements are very, very strong in there. books, dystopian novels of authoritarian governments. 1984. That is now it's categorized as genre fiction, but before it's literary fiction. Do you know Ayn Rand? She's a pretty nice author. So she wrote a book called Anthem, which 99% of the book is narrated in we perspective, because the words I, me, because in this world individualism is completely eradicated, like disapproved by the government and everything. So everything is just we. The characters have never heard of the word I or you or me. Like that would be sort of literary fiction. So would you say that types of fiction like these have more emphasis on character or like plot? Which has more emphasis on plot, would you say?
Okay, definitely genre fiction. That makes sense. Now, I was never acquainted with the distinction, but I mean, definitely when I think of literary fiction, specifically like the classical literature that can be considered literary fiction, it's a lot to do with character development. So then I guess it's an authorial choice whether they want the book more to focus on plot or character. Because that's true, because in Crime and Punishment, it's not so much plot as it is character.